let you know, and then I'll connect the chat. All right. YouTube is live. And I'm going to connect the chat, and we'll be good to go. What are you excited to talk about this week, Mike? Is there anything like a particular story that you're liking?
Oh, there's a few. There's a few. We'll get into them.
Okay. Okay. Okie dokie, pokey Loki. The show belongs to you.
Awesome. And good morning, everybody, and welcome to Glass Half Sports. Today's date is October 27th, 2022. My name is Mike Mensing, filling in for Nick today. He is coming back from out of town, so he is not in studio with us. He will be joining via Zoom call in a little bit. But as always, we do have a big show for you guys today. We'll get into the show rundown here in a minute. But for now, if you are a sports fan with sports fan friends, make sure to give us a like and a share on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, Spotify, YouTube, Patreon, and Twitch. You can find us on pretty much any social media out there. This has been a great week for sports. MLB is coming to a close. NBA, NHL are ramping up, and the NFL is in the swing of mid-season with the trade deadline looming. So our big show rundown for you guys today, we're going to do a Minnesota sports roundup. So we're going to talk about our Minnesota sports teams. Like I said, the Timberwolves getting off to a start. I don't know if we can call it a good start, but we'll get into that. The Wild are struggling early, and then the Vikings are looking like our best team in the state right now. We are going to do a UFC 280 recap. Hopefully Nick joins us via Zoom by that time, because if you do watch the show, you know that I am not a huge UFC follower.
Otherwise, I'll be going solo.
Otherwise, it'll be the Gabe Noah show. That's at right. That time. We are going to talk about the World Series, the Phillies versus Astros, and then we have our NFL headline news and our NFL key games, two of them, of the week. Two of them. Nick wanted to really only talk about one, but there is there is a second game that Nick did not have as a key game of the week. It's actually the only game between two winning record teams this week. So I figure that's a game we should talk about.
Okay. And I'll be back here consuming as many drugs as I can get in my body before the end of the show.
All right. Well, I think we need to put a graphic possibly on the screen for next episode. With like a meter that fills up with the Gabe drug intake.
Yeah, and this is completely a joke, by the way. Just had a little bit of a rough morning, so I'm just joking about taking away all my feelings with chemicals.
Yeah, yes. At the end of the day, we're all human beings.
We're Vikings fans.
We are Vikings fans. Yeah. Things happen, and sometimes you just got to roll with them. And that's why we're a little late today, and we apologize to, the viewers who were waiting for us at around 11:15. But life happens, and we roll with it. So.
Did you see the study that came out that actually showed they traced something like 36% of all intravenous drug use in our state, like of all intravenous drug users, to the 1998 NFC Championship game?
Really?
Yes. Isn't that incredible?
Not that surprising.
Not surprising at all.
Not that surprising. Yeah. So with that, let's actually kick off our Vikings segment for today. Not much to review as the Vikings are coming off of a bye week. And so we're going to switch kind of right into our preview for the game this weekend. Vikings host the Arizona Cardinals. Arizona Cardinals are floundering as of right now. They're sitting at 3-4. Nick pegged them preseason as one of the teams that would basically fade away into the sunset. Cliff Kingsbury should be fired. Kyler Murray might be done with the Cardinals as well. Nick was pretty down on the Cardinals. So as of right now, I'm going to give him his props. He's looking pretty accurate. They're struggling at 3-4. They don't have a running game pretty much at all. It's non-existent. Their defense has been not as good as it was last year. Their pass rush is almost non-existent as well. So moving into that game, what does that mean for the Minnesota Vikings? We should be able to establish a ground game against them. Their front seven does not scare me too much. You have an older J.J. Watt who has 2.5 sacks on the year, not really looking like the J.J. Watt we know. And then obviously he's playing with that heart problem as well, so maybe his motor isn't as high. The biggest statistic that I saw going into this game is going to be the third down conversion. That's going to be a money down for us both offensively and defensively. The Cardinals struggle offensively on third down, and they've actually allowed nearly 50% defensively third down conversion rate. So if the Vikings can stay on the field, convert third downs, make long, sustained drives, and keep basically Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins, their two biggest weapons, on the sideline, this should be a Vikings win. I'm predicting the Vikings win. I'm going to say 27-24. I'm going to steer into the skid of Nick saying that the Vikings win close games, even though it shouldn't be a close game, and say that the Vikings do pull this one out at 6-1. That would put the Cardinals at 3-5 and kind of go right along with Nick's thought of the Cardinals are floundering.
What? Hold on. What would that put our record at?
That would put our record at 7-1, Gabe.
I feel. Are we in the multiverse?
6-1.
I feel like it. Yeah. Well, still, I swore. God damn, I'm screwed up. I thought they had 2 losses, but I really. Oh man, Nick is going to come out looking good on this one.
Yeah. So I mean, I'll give him a little bit of credit. I really don't think that the Vikings are playing that good of football. I don't think that they're playing top 5 football. But because I was kind of right in my argument that the rest of the NFL isn't playing very good football either, that leaves the Vikings as a top 5 team, and I believe the 2 seed in the NFC right now. So if you just keep kind of racking up wins, even if you're not playing well, hopefully you play well in December, January, and February when it matters. But you're putting yourself in a position to be there, to have a high seed in the playoffs, possibly home field advantage. US Bank is extremely difficult to play in as an opponent, and hopefully we just keep rolling. A few statistics that I looked up to share with you good people. Vikings Cardinals all time. Vikings are 17-12 against the Cardinals. In Minnesota specifically, they are 11-4. So the odds are in our favor here, hosting the Birds from the desert. I'm really looking forward to the Vikings offense being able to look sustainable throughout the game. That's something that we've been missing, in my opinion. We'll look really good maybe opening drive of the game, and then we just kind of ghost for about 3-4 drives, maybe a lot of 3 and outs. And then we'll score again. Defense will give us good field position. We'll get a field goal off of it. What I'm really looking forward to is sustainable drives by our offense. I would really prefer us to have like 40 minutes of the time of possession in this game. And I really look forward to number 4, hopefully having a come out of his shell game in this new offense run by KOC.
Come out of his shell game.
Yeah, Dalvin Cook has not played well all season.
Well, hold on. Doesn't he have 200-yard games at least?
Let me look. I don't think he's eclipsed.
First game of the year. I mean, maybe they're multi-purpose things, but I thought he flashed and looked good in the first 2 games.
Far as true rushing yards, he has not eclipsed 100 yet this season. His average is pretty much right where it was last year. Just the volume of carries is down, though. I mean, you had him take 6 carries against the Eagles. He took 13 against the Dolphins. You know, the Dolphins game specifically, it's something that frustrates me about this offense slightly. Dalvin Cook was averaging 6 yards a carry against Miami.
Okay.
He only touched the ball 13 times.
And it sounds like you're blaming Dalvin for this.
I'm going to blame the play calling on that one.
Okay.
Right? I mean, if he's averaging 6 yards a carry, you give him the ball twice, that's a first down. You just keep moving the chains.
Yes.
But only touching the ball 13 times, that's roughly 3 a quarter.
Right.
And Dalvin Cook, in my opinion, is still a top 5 back in the NFL. That's inexcusable, in my opinion.
What has KOC offenses done? Like in the Rams, let's see. I'm trying to think of did he carry the ball, or is it the typical kind of where you catch 5 balls?
Yeah,
and carry 15.
The running back that pops to my mind when you think of the LA Rams and KOC and Sean McVay. KOC was probably in the league with Marshall Faulk,
right.
actually.
No, yeah.
It's going to be Cam Akers. And Cam Akers is a great back. But again, he wasn't the focal point of that offense. The focal point of that offense was Matthew Stafford, was Robert Woods, OBJ, Cooper Kupp. it's going to be the quarterback and the receivers on the outside. Now, I don't think that that's a bad thing by any means, but balance is a good thing, especially in a 17-game regular season plus playoffs. You have to be able to show a lot of different looks, have a lot of weapons on the outside as well. Tim Jackson chiming in, they have done that and lost to us 49ers in the NFC Championship game. Yes, Tim, yes, we have. Honestly, I personally really like the way that the Niners are ran. And it's something that the Vikings are going away from. The Vikings have always been a really, really good defense, really, really good running game. Have your quarterback pass the ball 15, 20 times a game. Case Keenum season was a perfect example of that. Unfortunately, it ended in Philadelphia. But we are moving away from that sort of scheme. We're airing the ball out a little bit more, a lot of different spread looks offensively, and we're taking our running back out of the game a little bit, where I would like to see Dalvin Cook make more of an impact in the running game moving forward.
So it's not so much a thing for him to improve as much as a schematic thing in your mind?
Yeah, I would say play calling wise, right? Okay. I mean, in my opinion, Dalvin Cook, like I said, is probably a top 5 back in the league. For him to only have 450 rushing yards through 6 games, that to me is below his watermark. He should be averaging 90 to 100 yards per game. He should be up around the 600 mark.
How many of these offensive linemen are KOCs?
I don't believe any.
Okay. I'm wondering if they're built the way that we want. Like, I mean, are we built up front to move the ball on the ground?
Yes.
We are, okay.
I would say our offensive line is better run blocking than they are pass blocking, so they're actually flipped from what KOC probably wants.
Yeah.
But sometimes you have to coach with what you have.
Right.
Right?
Right. This is a little bit off topic. Or I guess, are you done with the Vikings thing? Were we about to move on?
I'm pretty much wrapping up. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Go ahead, wrap up with what you got if you want, and then I have a mechanics thing for you. I saw something this week.
Yeah, I would just say the moral of the story, get Dalvin Cook involved. Either way, if he doesn't, I'm saying Vikings win. It should be a 31-21 game, but I'm going to steer into the skid that Nick has been making, and I'm going to say 27-24, Vikes win by 3.
And also, I got to shout out to that bastard Nick, too, because there was one thing early on where I was like, I remember he asked me what I thought, and I thought, I don't know, sounds like the Vikings. Sounds like the Twins. Like we got talent, but we're shaky and whatever. But as we were talking, I sort of came to my own conclusion with it that it's, new coach, new scheme. They're going to be shaky up front. I think this game could be the game where if they come out and they take care of business and actually blow them out, actually look in control and be slick, then I'd say I'd be pretty optimistic towards our future. If we play down to them, if we're sloppy, we eke out a win, then all of a sudden we're looking more like the Minnesota Vikings.
I think I agree with that statement 100%. Yeah. Actually, This is a perfect game to do so, and then you have the Commanders after that. Should be an easy win, and then your schedule gets a little tougher down the stretch. So it'd be really nice to see us take wins away from teams that are worse than us.
God, we could be looking at 9-1.
We should be looking at least. Well, we're 5-1 right now. Let me see our upcoming schedule: 6-1, 7-1. We should be 7-1 going up against the Bills, who are predominantly one of the best teams in the AFC. That could, in theory, in a weird alternate universe, be a Super Bowl matchup. Wouldn't it be fun if the Vikings and Bills met each other in the Super Bowl? It would be the first Super Bowl ever to end in a tie.
What is it that keeps us? What is the component you think that we need that would keep us from being a NFL team? What's our biggest weakness?
From being a powerhouse?
From being a truly a team that you would expect to go to the Super Bowl. Because I don't think anyone expects us to go to the Super Bowl right now.
To be completely honest, I don't think we're going to be carried by Kirk Cousins. I think Kirk Cousins is a good enough game manager. He's probably the best game manager in the league, but he's nothing more than that.
Yeah.
So because of that, you need to have weapons around him that are excelling. And I think that starts with number 4. It really starts with Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook needs to be given the ball more often than he has.
Are NFL offensive coordinators, like a KOC, someone who's a real, known as a mind in it, are any of them sophisticated enough where you could make the argument that he's going, it's like poker, boxing, whatever, where you don't show everything you got up front. Like, we're going to kind of make ourselves look one-dimensional because we can right now. We don't need Dalvin Cook like that. And then we're going to shift gears mid-season and kind of do that more. Have you ever,
Yes, 100%. It's a chess game. I mean, to be completely honest, we do it at the high school level.
Really?
Yeah, of course. We'll show stuff all season long. Like, we have one formation specifically where we basically run one play out of it all season long. Mm-hmm. This is the formation. This is the play. Well, now that we're in playoffs, what are teams seeing? Well, when we're in that formation, this is the play that we run. Mm-hmm. And now we're starting to add wrinkles off that play that they haven't seen. So it's definitely a long chess match, especially in the NFL when you might be playing the Cardinals now. I know the Cardinals won't make the playoffs. This is an example. But you might be playing the Cardinals now, and then you might be seeing them in the divisional round. So you might want to show them something that might not be super successful on 2nd and 6 this weekend. But when you see them 3 months from now, and it's 2nd and 6, and you line up in that same formation, it's a curveball off that look to be even more successful later. So that definitely happens. The other thing with Dalvin Cook, too, is he does have an injury history. So that maybe some of it, it's almost like he's on a pitch count because of his injury history.
Okay. Now, it's kind of funny to me because in a way it's like hard to believe because you go, imagine if they did that, right? Or that came out like, oh, well, we were kind of trying to, not show everything we had this week. And then, we've had a couple close ones this year.
Right.
And that if they lost that, what I thought you were going to say is that, no, the stakes are so fucking high in the NFL that we absolutely need to do our best shit every week or we could lose. I didn't think, I know that everyone likes to say they play chess throughout the year. I didn't think, though, that it maybe gets done that often. That you leave any room for,
I think a really successful NFL offense has, I would say, legitimately maybe 15 to 20 concepts, maybe 10, 12 different formations that you can run those concepts out of. And then you build things off of that. The Chiefs have done it in the past. Andy Reid is probably one of the best offensive minds in the game.
Yeah.
And when you see what he does off of different things to get the ball into his playmakers' hands, it's remarkable, and it just gets better throughout the season. So I definitely think that KOC is playing some sort of chess. Mm-hmm. But as long as he keeps winning, I don't care. At this point.
Okay, so now I've got the thing that I saw that I thought of you right away. I really wanted to ask you this.
Yeah.
There was this, and I actually recorded it, but I don't have time to get it up right now. But it was some sort of a semi-viral. It had a ton of plays, but it was, some YouTuber basically. But he was just adamant about how this is a characteristic of NFL quarterbacks that we won't see anymore, is how he teased it. And he's like, if you are a quarterback who is throwing with an over-the-top motion, you will not exist in the NFL anymore. And he just went on railing about how throwing straight over the top, how that does not exist anymore. What the fuck would he be talking about?
Yeah, so I mean, basically what that is to me is a very elementary take. To be honest.
I mean, it seems preposterous to
because
me,
what he's doing is he's looking at the top two young quarterbacks in the NFL right now, which is Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. Mm-hmm. Both of them are not only really good quarterbacks, but they're also supreme athletes. When you're that athletic, mm-hmm. you have the ability to throw off platform, to throw at different arm angles. The biggest thing is you need to be able to take a 3-step drop and deliver a 10-yard out successfully and accurately 10 out of 10 times if you're in the NFL. Even Patrick Mahomes is going to do a 3/4 motion at the minimum, if not even more over the top, in like a practice setting. Now, he has the ability, when needed, to change his arm angle.
Right.
Is that valuable? Yes, 100%. It's extremely valuable, especially if you don't have a great offensive line like Kansas City. However, the majority of quarterbacks coming up and being taught and everything are going to be taught foundationally to throw over the top, to snap your wrist down, to follow through to the opposite hip. However, as you get older, junior, senior year, I have a client in my training business who's a junior currently, who's a Division I prospect, who we work on throwing over the top, throwing over the top, throwing over the top for maybe 40 minutes of an hour. And then when you get into the last 20 minutes of that session, we say, okay, Dalen, you're a heck of an athlete, man. You're running this option offense that gets you moving out of the pocket a lot, throwing it off platform. Let's work on that stuff too. But it's secondary. It's not the primary. So I would wholeheartedly, personally, as somebody who played the position for almost 2 decades, somebody who was taught by someone who played the position for almost 2 decades, and someone who teaches the position currently, I would say that that's an incorrect take.
Okay. So because 3/4 just is always faster, right? Like, I mean, it's a quicker motion. Is that? I was so annoyed by this.
So
take.
I disagree with that. I don't
Okay.
think your release point affects your speed of release. I mean, you look at
so?
no, I don't. I truly don't. I think it's whether or not you externally rotate the shoulder is going to be the biggest difference. Josh Allen has one of the longer releases in the NFL, and due to that, he has more arm strength. He externally rotates the throwing shoulder more so, which actually allows him to get even more rotation into the throw, which is more velocity and all of that stuff. However, a great example of it's a sliding scale, right? If you take longer to get rid of the ball, you typically have more power, more velocity on that football. That's going to be Josh Allen at the end of that spectrum.
Okay.
The other end of the spectrum, in my opinion, is a guy like Dan Marino. Dan Marino would be here, ready to throw, and he would keep his wrist the same way and then just release from there instead of actually externally rotating the wrist, which is what's taught typically today.
Yeah. When I think of a slow release, just to keep it Vikings.
Yeah.
Randall Cunningham.
Yes. Randall Cunningham would almost throw a football like a baseball.
Yes.
He was very close. Something that I train my quarterbacks is the ball must always remain above the throwing elbow. Correct? Randall Cunningham would get very, very close to that line as he's basically cocking all the way around to deliver that ball. And, when you have a deep threat like Randy Moss, it helps.
It was amazing
because you can basically
how
cock
slow he looked
and throw that ball 70 yards.
Yes.
But I mean, look at Marino, though. Extremely successful NFL career, came over the top, couldn't throw the ball probably 65 yards.
Right.
But the quick release, the being able to read defenses and deliver the ball accurately, that's going to be the future of the NFL. I'm sorry, but it's going to be more spread. It's going to be more 5 receiver sets, more 4 receiver sets. Can you read the defense and deliver the ball accurately? To me, that means nothing about throwing sidearm or 3/4 or whatever.
What do you see when we talk about a guy like Bailey Zepp? I can't remember
Bailey
his name.
Zappi. Yeah,
Zappi. What do you see there as far as, because here we have 2 really young quarterbacks, Mac Jones and him.
Yep.
What are you seeing ability-wise there? Because it seems like Bailey Zappi or whatever just has that town in a frenzy.
I think Mac Jones and Bailey Zappi are the Spider-Man meme.
Okay. I'm too old for that.
Where it's 3 Spider-Men looking at each other all pointing like, that's you're me, I'm you type thing. They're very similar quarterbacks. It goes back to the old adage of if you have 2 quarterbacks, you don't have one.
Okay.
I think that they're both decent enough to probably win in the NFL. However, I also think quarterback is one of the positions where confidence is king. And if you're confident and if you feel like you have the team behind you, you're going to play better. I think Kirk Cousins is a great example of that. Seeing the stress and everything that he was under with Mike Zimmer, I thought that he shelled up at times and didn't play the way that Kirk Cousins truly can. With KOC and the offense built around him, I think we're seeing just a different Kirk. I mean, would you have ever imagined we see Kirk Cousins with bling around his neck with Mike Zimmer as the head coach?
No, I didn't. No.
And now there's pictures of him, on the plane away. Yeah.
Okay.
He's doing it a few times, and he's dancing after touchdowns and stuff. It's just a different vibe from him and the whole offense.
Swagger is enormous.
Confidence. Yes.
Yeah, it is enormous. Especially there is something, your rhythm and swagger when you're doing anything that throws the ball. It is amazing how much that stuff matters.
And if you're switching games, or like if you start a game poorly and you're going to get pulled, that hurts your confidence. So I look at New England and I'm kind of scratching my head because they have an issue in the quarterback room right now.
Right. Yeah. And then, so I just like talking because you have this quarterback expertise or throwing stuff. So I'm always interested in this. So I'm just going to put you on the spot one more time.
Yeah.
If you're a GM, right, and you are choosing between raw college talent coming into the NFL, what is the quality that you think is, so of course, usually prospects are raw. They might have, okay, he's really strong arm, but he's not accurate. He's really got all the physical tools, but he's, not making good decisions. What is the one weak quality that you would steer hard away from? What do you think is the least coachable?
So first of all, coachability
Yeah.
legitimately is one of those big abilities that I look for.
How do you assess that? Because I feel like you could look at anyone and go, yeah, but the way I coach, I would get through to this.
Right,
I can
right.
connect with them.
It's extremely difficult.
Yeah.
And the thing is too is these kids, they're 21, 22 years old.
Right.
So they could have a bad day and not be coachable one day, and the next day be great and say yes sir and change.
Yeah.
The best way for a scout to probably figure it out is talk to collegiate coaches and talk to their high school coach. See how they respond to criticism and see how they respond when things aren't going right.
Mm-hmm.
Quarterbacks in particular, when things aren't going well, you have to be that kind of staple in that offense and stand tall. I tell my quarterbacks that I train, if you have 3 picks at half,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you're going to take onus for them. They're your fault. However, you're going to go into halftime, going into your teammates and going, man, this wind is crazy, right, guys? Like, we're going to get them in the second half. That wind was nuts.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean?
You're actually sorry. I was confused by that.
Yeah. So it is your
actually-
fault, but at the same time, you're not gonna let it affect your composure and your confidence moving forward in the game.
Okay. Would you actually? So now I'm just fucking super curious. So
Yeah.
would you actually use that example as something to say to him, like, hey man, blame it on the wind? Because to me that'd be like, stop bullshitting, man. That's fucking. To me, it'd be more effective to go, hey guys, I'm sorry, I let you down. I fucked that up. Let's not let this derail. Sort of like a more real way. But I can also see psychologically of going like, it's better to say, because that's closer to reality, right? That there is shit that happens.
It's really just
There
an
is.
example, right?
Right.
I mean, if you throw a jump ball to your receiver and he jumps at the wrong time and it's picked, you're not going
Yeah.
to go up to him and say, you jumped at the wrong time, or you're not
Yeah.
going to say at halftime, well, I shouldn't have a pick because he jumped at the wrong time. You're going to
Yeah,
say, well, maybe I put it in the wrong spot.
Sure.
Or maybe the wind carried it to the outside shoulder instead of inside shoulder.
Right.
But, like, I teach my quarterbacks, you're going to own it. It's going to be your pick, and it's going to be your fault no matter what happens.
Yeah.
But you need to be able to rebound and be able to throw the ball 40 more times after that throw.
Right. No, gotcha.
So back to like draft status, the things that I would look for if I'm an NFL GM is, can he read a defense and identify what the defense is trying to do to him and how to exploit it?
Uh-huh.
And I would look for probably a B, athletic ability. I don't need a Lamar Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can, honestly, Kirk Cousins this year has shown more athletic ability than he has the rest of his career as far as taking a drop into the pocket. Maybe they're not open with the first, second, third read, and he needs to be able to move in the pocket to maintain his ability to be a passer downfield, but really just buying time for his receivers to get open. That is a huge. I mean, Tom Brady even has that ability, and he's probably a D athlete, right? Just the ability to extend plays that aren't going as planned is a huge ability. I think accuracy, I think arm power, I think all that stuff can be taught and coached and worked on. It to me, that's a skill. You are a technician, and the more technical and successful you can be in that skill, the more successful you'll be on the field. I think that's a taught skill that can be improved upon. Reading defenses at that level, if you're getting drafted as a senior in Division I football, you either have it or you don't, in my opinion. Because, yeah, you can know what a cover 3 is and how to identify it, but can you take the snap with 280-pound guys rushing at you and identify, oh, no, they were in a cover 3, now they're rolling to a cover 2 invert, and then be able to make a decision off of that? That's such a split-second decision. It's kind of like hitting a curveball. You either have it or you don't.
That is so fucking fascinating to me because I truly view this like, I don't have the expertise that you do at all with this, but to me, teaching accuracy would be the hardest thing because it's a judging space and time kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like kind of you're judging like the depth a lot of times.
But
right?
it's all like when you think about it, it's all mechanically, right? So I literally tell my quarterbacks, think of your arm as like a trebuchet.
Mm-hmm.
And if everything is lined up,
And then
for
they
that
say,
trebuchet.
what's a trebuchet?
Yeah,
Is their first thing?
typically, yeah. I have to show them a YouTube video. I'm like, do you know what a catapult is?
Right.
But if everything is lined up for that trebuchet, then at least you're going to miss maybe high or low and not left or right.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. No, for sure. I would think, so first of all, what I think is fascinating as an older guy who played high school, and I have some like resentment in a way where it's like, God, I wish I had coaching that could have taught me different things. Like, I didn't, to me, your brain in all sports, even boxing, man, being the smarter boxer is much more important than being the guy with the tools.
Yeah.
Muhammad Ali, put a clinic on with that stuff, being smarter. It's very hard for me to admit that Floyd is probably really, really smart, actually, as far as
boxing, not English.
As far as boxing, right. And it is bizarre how you see that more and more with sports.
I mean,
and
look at Peyton Manning, probably one of the smartest guys that have ever played football, and he had an extremely successful career until he was almost 40. I would argue that Tom Brady is one of the better quarterbacks as far as identifying defenses and getting. The reason Tom Brady barely ever gets hurt in 22 years is because look at his snap to release. It's probably one of the lowest in the NFL consistently year after year because they're typically in a 4 to 5 wide set. He's taking the ball and throwing a quick out to the slot because they're in a cover 3 and he knows that the corner is going to bail. Or he's throwing the slant because the outside linebacker is on and he's going to fill that void. He knows what the defense is trying to give him, and he knows where the hole in that defense is before he even calls out his cadence. If you can do that, you're going to be supremely successful in the NFL.
Yeah. No, it is, and that's why I would think teaching them to read things would actually be harder because I feel like intelligence. That's just intelligence.
I started
a lot
in
of it.
7th grade, to be honest, man. Once you hit 7th grade, we start reading defenses. What does a stacked defender mean? What does safeties at the same level mean? What does a corner that's eyes on their man versus inside leverage tilt to the quarterback mean? There's only so many things that defense can really do. Just like there's only so many things an offense can really do. So it's basically, here's 10 plays a defense can do. Here's 10 plays an offense can do. How do they match up?
Right.
If you're running a post and they're in a cover 3, you're probably not throwing that post because there's a safety in the middle of the field. It's different things like that. And once you kind of learn those 100 things, you're good to go as long as you kind of internalize them and instinctually know what's going on.
Right. Well, it looks like Nick is, at least I saw him trying to join. I guess I thought he was here.
Yeah, that's okay. We'll transfer over to the wild segment here,
Perfect.
Continue on with our Minnesota Sports Roundup, and Nick can join whenever he stops having technical difficulties. It's probably pretty difficult to grab some Wi-Fi in the airport.
Probably.
There,
Thank you for answering my off-topic quarterback stuff.
Of course, anytime.
And I should shout out for you. You have a sports training business.
I do.
Right? For young. So who are the type of people that you hire?
So typically 6 through. I've had college athletes in the past. My specialty for sure is quarterbacks and receivers. I do speed and agility training for running backs, defensive ends, linebackers, corners. I know a decent amount about the defensive side of the ball, just having to exploit them for 20 years.
Right,
However, my specialty is definitely going to be in the passing game.
What are the age kids that you like to work with? Like, what's your ideal client, would you say?
I would say my ideal client starts with me going into their 7th grade season and is with me throughout those 5 years. Our goal typically for bigger schools is to start as sophomores, roughly.
Yeah.
If not our junior season. Our junior season is what we put on tape. We get recruited. We know where we're going into our senior year.
Right.
That's like perfect
awesome.
to plan.
Yeah.
Client.
Well, I'm going to have you start working with my son as soon as he turns 6 years old.
Perfect.
Right.
I have clients as young as 9.
Do you really?
Yep. I have a client that's coming back from his junior season in college this summer and is going to work with me a little bit. He set school records this past year for passing yards and passing touchdowns in a game. So
that's awesome, man.
Yeah. We're a little bit everywhere. I have a client who's at a North Metro high school right now. I've worked with him since he was going into his 7th grade year. He started as a sophomore for his big high school, and he's getting Division I looks. So,
yeah, I think that's so cool. So we'll have to get that info out later. I want to put that up for you sometime. So,
alrighty, we'll have to check with quote unquote dad and see if that's okay.
And I'm telling him to call in if his Zoom stuff isn't working, because then I can patch him through via phone. So Nick,
Sure.
If you're listening, Call the phone. Or
Call the
my
phone.
Yeah.
Call Gabe's phone. All right. So we'll switch over to the Minnesota Wild. This is not as exciting as anticipated preseason. Wild basically got their first win in regulation on Tuesday night over the Canadiens, 3-1. They do have one other win on the season, and that was in overtime against Vancouver. However, on the season, the Wild are sitting at 2-3-1. They have 5 points through 6 games. This is definitely behind where we thought that they would be. Actually, no, this is behind where Nick thought that they would be. I thought that they would be right here because they have a relic in goal. They dished out and gave the rest of the NHL a lot of our goals from the previous season, and we were relying on young youth talent to step in and basically adapt and fall in line for our second leading goal scorer last year, which was Fiala. I just don't see that happening, and I think we've seen that. However, the biggest issue has been our defense and goaltending. Let's just look at the scores here of our 6 games. We allowed 7 goals to the Rangers. We allowed 7 goals to the Kings. We allowed 6 against the Avalanche. We allowed 3 to the Canucks, allowed 4 against the Bruins, and then allowed 1 to the Canadiens. The one game that we've only held them to 1 goal is the one game that we won in regulation. So that's going to be the biggest thing is can our defense actually keep them out of the net so we can score our 3, 4, 5 goals and get the W in regulation. Moving forward to the week ahead.
Mike.
Yes.
You're a piece of shit. You know that?
Why is that?
You're actually enjoying. This is all goes back to the goaltender argument last year. You are actually actively rooting against the Wild.
I am not actively rooting against the Wild. I'm going to make that very clear. I want the Wild to go undefeated from here on out and win the Stanley Cup 100%. I personally just don't think it will happen. That's all. Like, I'm still a Wild fan. Don't get me wrong. However, I just don't think that what they've been doing over the past 2 years or year and a half with moves is going to lead to that.
Okay, so I got to see if this is working, but the hotline has blinged.
Oh, geez. Hotline bling.
Let me test this right here. Caller, are you on? Oh, boy. Let's see. Caller. Oh, I think, did he hang up? Did I hang up on him?
I'm going to do the week preview here while we're waiting for him.
Yep, go ahead.
In the next week, the Wild play the Senators, Red Wings, Blackhawks, and Canadiens again. Now, that is not exactly a gauntlet of NHL teams. This is a great stretch for us to turn it around now that we are actually starting to win games. Ideally, we go 3-0-1 or 4-0 in this stretch. I don't really see anybody that, to me, looks like they have a better roster in general at all. We should beat the Sens. We should beat the Wings. Definitely should beat the Blackhawks. And then the Canadiens again, who we've shown that we can beat. So ideally, this is a perfect stretch. Turn it around right now. Next week looks a little tougher. So it's a great opportunity to get those young legs that you have in that locker room a little bit more experience, maybe a little bit of confidence and a little bit of composure moving forward. But right now, the product that they've been putting out on the ice is not good enough. So with that, if you have any comments about the Minnesota Wild or their current status as a team, please comment in below and let us know your thoughts on the struggling, floundering Minnesota Wild. With that, we'll switch gears to the Minnesota Timberwolves. Minnesota Timberwolves are going to be another team that is not doing necessarily what we thought that they would do. Now, they are 3-2 currently. They just defeated the Spurs 134-122 and avenged an earlier loss. We lost to them on Monday, 115-106. Oh, sounds like we have a caller. Hello. Oh, look at that. Look at that. We have a Zoom caller who should be sitting his butt right next to me right now. Yeah, well.
Is there any way that you can just turn so you're like looking out the window so we have sun on your face or not? So we can just see a little better? You know.
We're trying to fix the lighting even off campus, folks.
You know, your looks are really like a big part of the show. So, and I think opening that'll just be more back. Well, let's try it. How about the one right in front of it? The other one to the left of it. Yeah, please. That'll let it in by your face.
Nick's about to get tackled by airport security for messing with the blinds.
Yeah, where are you? Yeah. Okay, great.
Alrighty. Well, Nick, we're touching on the Minnesota Timberwolves. Do you
Well, the Wild. I just, I think it's important to talk about this. That I just had to. I won't call it an attack. I'll just call it the truth, which is that he is now just actively rooting against the Wild so that he can be right in his goaltending argument from last year. So that just brings you up to speed. Yeah, petty man. And I do actually believe, by the way, that veteran goaltenders do often start slow.
Well, yeah, so did Joe Mauer when he was playing first base for those 10 seasons. But he never really turned it on, did he?
Yeah.
Well, so is letting in 7 goals in your first 2 games of the season, in my opinion. Yeah.
Is Cap...
Thank you. That's all I'm saying.
I thought they are kind of turning around, though. I saw that they shook up the lines.
Well, you better.
Yeah. No, that's true.
You better.
That's true. But, yeah, I don't know. I think it is early. It's a young team who came in with too much confidence, thought it was going to happen for them, and they just need to, need to turn around.
Hey, Gabe, real quick, I have a message from a listener who says that they cannot hear our fearless leader on Zoom currently.
Let's see here. Let me get it then. That'll be an easy fix.
Alrighty.
Okay. Try again, Nick.
Fearless leader?
Yep, I got it.
Yeah, we've been calling you Dad all morning, too.
Yeah, I don't like... No, not we. Let's not throw me on that. I don't call other men Dad. I am a dad.
So am I, but I don't really get yelled at by anybody else.
I did...
other than Nick or my dad.
That's your dynamic between you two. But I do call... Never mind. I was going to talk about the sex worker show that I produced, but let's just move on.
Let's keep it PG moving forward. Exactly. All right, so onto the Timberwolves, Nicholas. 3-2 after 5, maybe not looking as impressive as we thought. The loss against the Jazz doesn't look as bad with how fast they've started.
The Jazz have been obnoxiously good early for no apparent reason, by the way. Like just having traded away every relevant star that they had, and then for them to come out looking like a unit is weird.
That's exactly what I would say they look like, though, is they look like a unit who basically says, we know that you're counting us out, so F you. We're just going to play together and see what happens, and it's been very successful so far. So I'll give the Jazz that win. I'll say, okay, maybe we should be 4-1. The loss that's really concerning to me is the Spurs loss. The Spurs are a bottom of the barrel Western Conference team. And Chris Finch, in my opinion, got out-coached in that game. I think Greg Popovich took Chris Finch up behind the woodshed and said, I don't care, I'm beating you.
Yeah, and those things are going to come, right? Like we talked 2 weeks ago about how like the big thing was this season was going to be how well is Chris Finch going to perform, managing the rotations, stopping the bleeding, getting the right guys in place. And I think that first game against San Antonio was a good indicator of that, but I will give him some credit. Obviously, we squared off against him last night. We come away with a victory where we pretty much got the lead in the beginning and never let it go. So, like, is there progress being made? Absolutely. I think one of the big things, too, is they are trying to find where Cat is going to fit in the offense right now, which is weird because he's been the number 1 scorer for such a long time. Right now, it's kind of like Anthony Edwards' offense. And D'Lo's facilitating it, and Rudy Gobert is a big part of it because he's going to be in the pick and roll game consistently. So where does Cat find spots on the floor to be, I guess, engaged? And we've seen it when he's not engaged on offense. He's so disengaged on defense that we're like playing with 4 guys.
Yeah,
I think that's the big adjustment right now.
I mean, I haven't watched as much Timberwolves basketball as I would like to this point. However, I just see us coming up the floor with Wiggins on a wing. I would really like to see a double screen by Cat and Gobert. Cat fades and Gobert rolls. So whichever way you go, if you go right towards Cat, Cat's going to fade to the 3-point line, and that could be a kick out for a 3. Cat's not going to make his money in the paint. He never has. He never will. Let's use him on the perimeter as a true stretch 4 and have Gobert in the middle.
But what allows him to play that stretch role is the fact that he's been so effective downhill against smaller guys for such a long time. So it's hard to get his offense going when guys aren't sagging off of him. When Cat receives pressure at the 3-point line or from the deep two or to pull up on a dribble, he's not a very effective shooter. You got to get it to where guys are worried about him moving past you, and it's hard to do that when you have 2 7-footers. Like we've already seen Ant struggle a little bit finishing at the rim with the extra body in the paint that Gobert puts down there that Cat didn't used to. Now add another 150 pounds between each defender and 6 inches on each guy, and it becomes really difficult to just get down into the lane that way because then Gobert doesn't have a place to go. You know what I mean? So it's a really weird fit for Cat right now.
Right. But I think that they'll work it out. Looking forward to the Timberwolves schedule before the next time we see you beautiful listeners. It's going to be tomorrow night versus the Lakers. Should take that one, in my opinion. I think the Lakers are a team that's going to miss the playoffs again this year. I really do.
Tanking for Wembanyama, right?
Yes, but Adam Silver came out and said that they are monitoring teams that are tanking extremely closely. So it's going to be interesting to watch if that actually comes to fruition later in the season. We then play the Spurs again on Sunday, October 30th. Again, should be a win. Spurs are not that good of a team, especially after the Murray trade. And then Tuesday, we face off against Western Conference powerhouse, the Phoenix Suns. That's going to...
And they're in a weird spot right now.
They are.
If you've been paying attention to this, like Jamison Crowder is actively sitting out until he receives a trade from from a team that 2 years ago was in the NBA Finals, Western Conference Finals.
I still look at them as a top 4 team in the West, though, even without Crowder.
I do too, but they are a Chris Paul injury away from not being able to beat a lot of teams, and I think bringing DeAndre Ayton back upset a lot of people after his performance in the playoffs last year, and that's starting to fester from inside the locker room. So we should be able to beat them right now.
Alrighty, so we're looking at 3 straight wins, and then we will preview the next game Friday, November 4th, when we see you guys on November 3rd. That Friday, November 4th matchup is against Milwaukee. So back-to-back really tough opponents, in my opinion, Western Conference to Eastern Conference for our Wolves. But let's make sure we take the 2 easy ones against the Lakers and Spurs first.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
Don't overlook them. Don't overlook them.
Alrighty. Well, let us know what you guys think about the Minnesota Timberwolves and their current playing style, I guess, and how they're making it all work with those 2 bigs. And let us know what you think the rest of the season holds for those Timberwolves, currently sitting at 3-2. So, Nick, I'm really glad that you joined when you did, because our next segment is going to be a you and Gabe segment. I'm going to give you guys 7 minutes total. 7 minutes total to get through UFC 280 and the recap.
All right.
Okay, yeah.
Should I just mute your mic?
Did you catch any of it, Mike?
I know what happened, but I did not watch it, if that makes sense. So that's kind of what I do with the UFC. I'm not going to spend $55, $60 to watch the pay-per-view. Never going to happen. Never, ever, ever going to happen. However, when Oliveira wins, I will know that. Fair enough?
Oliveira did not win, surprisingly.
I know.
Gabe, you want to start right there with Islam Makhachev and Charles Oliveira?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Although it's the least controversial, interesting, so it's perfect. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, everybody that thought going into this fight that was going to be close, man, were we wrong. Like, I had legitimate faith in Charles Oliveira, a lot of experience, ton of cage time, had done a ton of 5-round fights recently, had looked like, he could take a shot and get back up. Was great off of his back even. Like, he seemed like the only guy in the division, scarily enough, that should have been able to handle Islam. And he got Khabib-style smashed. I was floored.
Well, as you well know, I saw this coming and predicted it perfectly. And this is what I told you would happen. No, I was dead wrong as well. I think this has happened to me twice now, where you send, and I'm going to just make no difference. There's no difference between Khabib and Makhachev. It's the same guy.
Same guy.
Yeah.
They've been in the same camp for the last 22 years. You're going to get the same fighter.
Yes. But it is amazing how much they are the same. I mean, it really is extraordinary. And the thing that I'm now just flat out confused about a certain aspect of their game, which is their striking. Because the one thing that I believe that Oliveira had heads and shoulders over him is that his striking had come so far. And then the thought was, he goes down, he gets dropped, but in as much as I love jiu-jitsu, I do give wrestling a slight edge, at least certainly when you're at that level wrestler. A top level wrestler versus top jiu-jitsu, it seems like wrestling kind of just out-brutes them. But just like when Khabib fought McGregor, who's a master of angles and master of timing and all this kind of stuff, he goes out first and gets dropped by what looks like a pretty simplistic straight punch. Oliveira comes out, does the exact same thing. I don't know if they're being overestimated or if underestimated, or if they're cagey with that shit. If they're better than I think.
I just think a big part of it is when you fight like that, right? And all of a sudden you throw. Daniel Cormier talks about it all the time. You start talking about like, hey, the threat of the takedown, right? So you see it in boxing all the time where maybe a guy gets his toe stepped on and he looks down for a split second, right? That split like difference in focus opens up a whole lot wider range for you to get caught, right? Like, because you're not seeing it all the way through. No matter what you're doing, it's surprising you a little bit. Sometimes that's all it takes. And was Makhachev super effective with his striking in the first round? Necessarily, I don't think so. Like, they were counting them as significant strikes landed, but they were never like, you see Kamaru Usman snap a jazz out there, and you can tell that landed, right? You see that with
that first straight left that he threw, though, like that rocked Oliveira.
Right, but I think if he's in a different state of mind where he's not worried so subconsciously about the takedown, we've seen him take worse shots. You know what I mean? It's a whole different element that you don't see out of guys, because the only other dude on the planet right now that wrestles at that level would be Kamaru Usman. Like, that's the only other fighter I can think of that would be able to hold par with either one of these fighting
There's
styles.
a new guy, just so you know.
Alrighty,
Nickel.
I'm gonna cut you guys short on that one a little bit.
Okay.
Let's switch to the Muhammad and Brady fight. I'm gonna give you a minute and 30 seconds, and then we'll get into the controversial one.
Yeah. Man, it was weird to see Sean Brady lose. It was weird to see Sean Brady lose the way that he lost after looking so bulletproof.
Was undefeated.
Up to this point. Was undefeated. And then I think all that this does is, like, Beneil Dariush is, hey, listen, I'm title picture ready. There's no questions now. Like, you can't keep him out of that picture anymore. He's got to be up there with some of the other guys in the welterweight division starting to take their shots, especially since the hype train on Khamzat Chimaev has cooled off, quite a bit at welterweight.
Well, I don't know if it's cooled off now after his little fight in the audience, too. I don't know if you guys saw that.
Jesus. Yeah, I did.
Like, even he's got to be getting tired of his own bullshit, right? Like, God, I got to get drawn into this shit every time. But, Beneil at this point, he's just at that point where I feel bad for him. Like, the dude deserves the title shot, and now Volk, the little fucking garden gnome, jumps into the ring like he deserves the shot. It's kind of like, I get why the UFC does that, but I think Beneil has, I know he doesn't have swagger in that way where, like, he's going to light up like a press conference and make everyone excited, but he's really likable. He's really likable when they put him on a pedestal, and clearly has the talent.
I agree with that.
Alrighty. Yeah. So let us know what you guys thought about those two fights, and then we'll get into the controversial one that I even know is controversial. Peter Yan split decision loss to Sean O'Malley.
Okay.
Hello, mother.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, Nick, if you want to start this one or whatever.
So
you're limited to 1 minute, Nicholas.
Oh no, come on!
Limited to one.
Yeah,
there's no way.
This is a fascinating.
So first of all, the scoring thing, right? That's the first thing that everybody's going to look at. So they win a split decision, and the thought is the first two rounds, most people look at it as, how did the first round go? Peter Yan very obviously dominated the second round, ground control, ring generalship, and was even more effective striking. And in the third round, you have to consider the volume of damage that Sean O'Malley had put in, and that probably gives him the third round. So how did you score the first round, I think, is the biggest thing here. And I was talking to Mike about this earlier in the week. You look at the progress that Sean made even between round 1 and round 3. You know what I mean? Like, round 1 looked a little out of character, looked like he could be taken down. Round 2 started to hold his own. There were no real submission attempts in there by Peter Yan. And then by round 3, when they were back up on their feet, Sean felt like he had kind of made that step that everybody wanted to see him make. And I think if this goes 5 rounds, Yan gets knocked out. And I think that thought process sticks with a lot of people. You look at the 4-inch gash with the knee. All of a sudden, he's bleeding profusely. That affects, your blood pressure, your heart rate. It's going to affect your respiratory system, your ability to see, and with how
vision. Yeah.
Yeah. So all of a sudden, this becomes a heavily favored fight on the side of Sean O'Malley, and I think that's why you give him the win as well. So I think what's going to happen is, if anything, we need to see this in a 5-round platform, and then the winner takes on Aljamain Sterling. But I could see how Sean's camp wouldn't want to do that, because they just took care of the number 1 contender. Kid's 29 years old. He's got the chance to do something really special. It would probably be the title fight that goes on the UFC 284 card with Volkanovski and Chimaev.
Gabe?
Okay, I want you to hear this. So I have gone. I'm all over the place on this fight. By the way, to me, what the question is do we want to judge fights like, do you want it to be the Olympics, or is this a fight? Because if you look at it as a fight, I actually, of course, razor thin and close, but Sugar Sean, who I'm not necessarily a fan of, won that fight. He won the fight. Peter Yan won Olympic scoring, right? Like, I mean, if you look at it that way. And yes, he won 2 out of 3 rounds. I think it's not really controversial so much in that regard. But
from the points.
Yeah.
From the points of view.
But I mean, O'Malley put harder hits on him. He split his face open. He rocked him at the end. I mean, that's, if you're watching a fight, he won that fight at the end. And I guess it's very interesting to me how many fighters, and a lot of people are coming out and they're pissed, but I think a lot of that is also because he's been such a hype show. They're the hype show one more time, and they get conspiratorial. But I think one of the most fascinating things, I'm going to play, this is just the audio recording of it, but this is the between rounds. I don't know, Nick, you and I talked about it, but this is the thing between. And I think it's fascinating to hear what.
Right behind his ear, right below his ear, Sean. You can get him. Hey, you're in this. He's too fast for you. If he doubles you again on the fence, go towards his head and stuff right away. Don't wait. Wrestle hard. You look great. You're too fast for him. If he starts crowding too much, then the cheat is there. You know what? Hey, you look great, buddy. You're in great shape. This motherfucker's gassed already.
Hey, you look great, buddy. He looks so stoic and defeated, and I think it's just fascinating to watch this thing unfold. But I gotta really take my hat off to that guy, and he's legit. He deserves to be where he's at. He's gonna be better going forward. And also, Peter Yan got fucked. I don't know how to say it. Like, it should have been a draw. Like, I wish you could have just called that a draw, but I don't know.
Well, and here's the thing. So I'll kind of go through Gabe's thing, one at a time here, and then we'll move on. But when you talk about like how it scored out, and Gabe's talking like Olympic scoring versus like who won the fight, like
if you're in the schoolyard,
keep in mind that Dana White was a boxing promoter who has refused to get back into boxing because he hates the politicking, right? Which is that Olympic points system. So you think that he has it, by the virtue of how he set this thing up, instructed or at least had a hand in teaching the state athletic commissions, his referees, the people that do the scoring, that, hey, listen, it really is about the threat. Yeah, sure, Yan had control, not a single submission, like, threat at all. And every time they were on the feet, it was pretty evenly matched until Sean started to take over. Well, if that's the case, Sean won that fight, and that's how that should be scored if we're steering away from what Dana has always hated about boxing, right? Then you think about, I'm losing my train of thought here. I'll just wrap it up.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting. I agree. Yeah, maybe it should have been a draw. But I think that's why it would be important to at least broach the subject of making this like a co-headliner or a headliner of its own, where you cut both guys in for pay-per-view and run it back as a 5-round number 1 contenders fight.
I think they have to. I think to let O'Malley move on, or whatever. I don't know. I think it's got to happen. I think that the energy is there around it for sure. And frankly, I think O'Malley's going to do better.
Alrighty, guys.
I do too.
Yeah.
Let us know what you think about UFC 280 and what unfolded. Who do you think should have won the Jan O'Malley fight? And then I'm sure we'll touch base on UFC here in a couple weeks. With that, let's transition into our World Series preview. Really quick, for those of you who may not have been paying attention, Phillies defeated the San Diego Padres 4-1 to advance to the World Series, and the Houston Astros defeated the New York Yankees, who begged for the Astros in the ALCS. So you have Phillies, Astros in the World Series. Nick, what are your thoughts moving forward?
I just hope Harper wins it. He deserves one, so that way we can put the talk to bed about him not being the greatest baseball player in his generation. If he finishes single-handedly lifting the Phillies to a World Series,
Batting over 400 right now in the playoffs. Yeah. I'm gonna agree with you.
This run earns him his contract.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with you just because I hate Houston still because of the whole scandal. Houston can be done and go die in a hole for all I care. Not a huge fan of Philadelphia sports, and that shows you how much I hate Houston, that I'm actually rooting for the Phillies in this one.
Yeah.
Something of note, it's actually Houston versus Philly for the next 2 weeks because the Eagles actually play the Texans as well. So it's the cities of Philadelphia versus the city of Houston for about the next 10 to 12 days. So it's going to be interesting to watch. I'm going to say Phillies in 6, actually.
Yeah, Phillies in 6 or Phillies in 7. I think it's going to – Bryce, much like, in baseball, it's weird. You kind of get this aura of like those teams of destiny or those players of destiny as they're like grabbing for the brass ring, so to speak. I feel like Harper has that, like, his bottom of the 8th 2-run home run to get them to the World Series, like had that
with the soundbite of "I can't believe I just did that."
Right, and so for him to go into Houston, I feel like we're going to get into a Game 6 or a Game 7, and he is going to be the guy at the plate, and he's going to get it. He's got that aura around him right now, so I'll take the Phillies as well.
Alrighty, Gabe, anything to weigh in on?
Oh, sorry, I was on mute there. I've got a little graphic that I pulled here.
Oh,
are you aware of exactly how good his postseason is? Have you guys seen
from what I've heard, he's batting like close to 500 for the playoffs. Just absolutely insane. Gabe, could you actually?
We've got.
I have a small graphic concerning Nick's zoom limit. That's blocking the graphic for me, actually, if you wouldn't mind.
This motherfucking thing. All right, so Nick, you might have to reconnect after this because of this. I'm going to have to call Zoom and absolutely go insane again in about 8 minutes.
So he's the 5th best OPS all time in the playoffs.
5th best OPS all time. I mean, talk about...
Look at the names in front of him, too.
Right. And then Randy Arozarena. It was really fascinating to me. Like, that's how good his rookie one was. But yeah, I mean, it is. He really is doing
ahead of Alex
special.
Rodriguez, ahead of Albert Pujols, ahead of David Ortiz, Nicholas.
Yeah.
It makes me a little sad, but I'm okay with it.
The only ones ahead of him, Bonds, Beltran, Molitor, got to shout out him, and Stargell. I mean, he's really doing a historic thing with the team on his back. I mean, it is extraordinary. I think it's
definitely something. That's the storyline, in my opinion, to watch moving forward. That, and if you hear banging of trash cans at all.
Yes.
So does one last thing on Harper. He wins the World Series here, right? And then if he does this solidify him as a first ballot Hall of Famer? I feel like it has to.
Yes.
Oh, it should. It should, but I still want to do. I know you said that we did it on the show, but I'll just put it out as a question then to you guys. So Harper or Trout, if you're a GM, back when they were, whatever, let's say they're 25 years old each, which one do you take?
At the time, to be honest, I've always been a Trout over Harper guy.
Me too.
The only reason that I'm like steering more towards Harper at this point in time is because of the injury history. If Trout stays healthy, I do think Mike Trout is better. I think he brings more in the field. He's a little bit better athlete on the base paths and in the field. But I mean, availability is one of the best abilities that you can have, and Mike Trout does not have that ability. Bryce Harper has been consistent.
I think they're similar. I don't think there's much difference.
Yeah, and we're the three talking heads here because we got somebody at every different section of this. I think it's a no-brainer for Harper, even with Mike's comment, because even when Trout has been healthy, how far has he taken his teams? not nearly as far.
I think
as
that
Bryce Harper took
the
both
roster
Nationals
around him
and the
though,
Phillies.
like look at the roster around him though. Even when he was in Washington, you had Ryan Zimmerman and you had that pitching staff. Mike Trout has had little leaguers around him his entire career. How can that be on him?
Go back to 03-04. That was not the case coming up. It was flip-flop. Believe it or not, if you go back and look at the roster side by side, when Mike Trout was primarily healthy. No, sorry.
13, 14 maybe?
Yeah, it's 12, 13, 14. The Angels had the far better roster, and what was being built around Bryce Harper was not all that great. They had guys that were averaging 60 starts a season throughout the majority of their roster. They had just come out of the Alfonso Soriano era. Strasburg was hurt.
But you still had Strasburg on the roster, is my point. Like even with
second year in the league after his second Tommy John surgery. You see what I'm saying? So like Trout had the better roster early when he was healthy and was never able to do what Bryce Harper did once he got to the Nationals.
No way.
Yep.
Not a chance.
We'll look it up.
Well,
we'll look it up.
It's funny you asked that to go look it up because your on the spot producer has been doing that. So I actually found an article. And it is a direct
sponsored by Chuck and Don Spet Supplies. Yeah,
hey,
awesome. Hey,
shout out Chuck and Don. I don't know how the hell to get rid of that.
That's okay. Shop at Chuck and Don's.
So we got Bryce Harper. Well, here. How about this? I can pull it up. What?
I think Nick is going to have to rejoin here very shortly. But that's
4 minutes he's got.
Yeah.
And I'm going to have to call them and go crazy again. But, God damn it. Never mind. Let's switch to another one, and I'll just pull it on the side.
Alrighty.
We can come back to it.
And that's okay, because Mike Trout is better. That's fine.
Don't do that.
I actually think...
Don't lie to our fans.
I think Bryce Harper is better now, but I think it's because of Mike Trout's injury history. I really do. I think if he's healthy throughout his entire career, it's a different ballgame.
Why do you think Bryce Harper's been so healthy? He's hurt every year.
I'm not saying he's been so healthy, but he's been healthier than Mike Trout because pretty much every major leaguer has been healthier than Mike Trout.
That's true.
Over the past decade.
I mean, it also maybe just comes down to toughness, right? Like Bryce Harper's playing in the World Series after a broken thumb. I've seen Mike Trout miss 4 weeks for a hangnail. You know,
if your team is in last place in the division, who cares? If your team is in the World Series, it's a different story. So I don't think that's a apples to apples argument either.
Games played, we got 1382 for Bryce Harper, 1407 for Trout. I got to see how many years.
Yeah, I was going to say
plate appearances 61 to.
Trout's been in for what, one or two longer?
Yeah,
I think so.
He was 2011 and Harper's 2013. I think, right?
Yeah, so 2 years.
Yep.
2 years. Yep. So okay.
So less than 100 games more in 2 years.
Yes.
Okay. So that eliminates your health argument.
No, it doesn't.
No,
it helps it.
Yeah, I was going to say. I think
you don't understand numbers or math, do you?
Ooh.
It's okay.
No,
you're a wordsmith.
Trout is soft.
Doubles.
Oh Jesus.
Soft like 2-ply.
You're 10-ply, bud. All right, let's move on. That's
Okay.
a Letterkenny quote for all you Letterkenny fans out there. All right, so we're going to do a 2-minute drill through the NFL headline news. Got it, Nick?
Sure.
2-minute drill. Christian McCaffrey to the 49ers. Who wins the trade, Panthers or Niners?
Panthers, because long-term Christian McCaffrey's contract will not be bearable, or his injury history will keep him from being a relevant part of a playoff push.
I'm going to say long-term, 5 to 10 year window, the Panthers win the trade. Short-term, the Niners win the trade for sure. The Niners are a Super Bowl contender now with Christian McCaffrey. So I'm going to,
yeah,
I
they're
think
definitely them and the Eagles, I think, are 1 and 2 in the NFC right now.
Ooh.
They're at like 3.
I'll go 2A and 2B with the Vikings. All right. So Christian McCaffrey to the 49ers, now wearing 23, I believe, and following in his dad's footsteps, suiting up for the red and gold of the Bay there. So next segment, Colts bench Matt Ryan indefinitely.
Finally.
Yeah, I mean, Indianapolis is where quarterbacks go to die, right? So in theory, are they stopping that trend? I did go pick up Sam Ehlinger in our dynasty league, man. So hopefully he plays well.
Yeah, so Sam Ehlinger is a guy that I think everybody's kind of been waiting on. If you go back and watch some of his tape from Texas, believe it or not, he's kind of the quarterback that got that system trending back in the direction that it is now headed in. I think the guy's a locker room guy. He's athletic. He's big, he's strong. You know, the NFL right now is built around guys that look like Josh Allen. I don't know if you've seen Sam Ehlinger's legs, but they look like Saquon Barkley. So maybe he's got a little boot scoot and boogie to him that can get Indianapolis into the playoffs this year, even if they continue to win.
I have a little nugget of knowledge I'd like to share with you guys.
Yeah, sure.
Do you know who Sam Ellinger's quarterback coach is?
Mike Mensing.
Oh God, I wish. That'd be so cool. No, oh my gosh. I can't remember the guy's last name, but it is the same guy that Patrick Mahomes. It's Bob Stroup, I want to say, is how you pronounce it.
Oh, yeah.
It's actually the same guy that Patrick Mahomes works with.
Whoop, here we go.
And I will repeat that when Nick comes back on.
That's right.
But yeah, I mean, seeing somebody from, if we want to go, UFC on it, seeing somebody from the same camp as one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL has got to be encouraging for the Colts, right?
Yes, absolutely. And I actually didn't know that Ellinger was actually a real prospect or whatever, that he was someone who we think is actually going to be good.
Yeah. Can't be worse than Matt Ryan has been the past few weeks.
Well, that's true. But I've already assessed Matt Ryan's talent level a long time ago, and I don't know why the NFL GMs aren't listening.
So, Gabe, what would you say is the most notable game that Matt Ryan ever played in? What would be the first game that pops to mind?
I don't have one that pops to mind. Was he in the Super Bowl?
What pops to mind right now for me is the 28-3 lead that he blew against Tom Brady in the Super Bowl, right?
Right.
So it was a 28-3 lead that he blew. Matt Ryan was the quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts for 28 weeks and 3 days. 28-3, man. It just haunts him.
Right.
Recording in progress.
Ooh, recording in progress.
Let's see. All right. Yeah,
so,
you can ignore this and I'll just... Yeah.
No, we're good. I'll repeat that little tidbit when Nick comes back on, but we're going to go into struggles for Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers. Both quarterbacks have been struggling as of late. Tom Brady takes a loss to the Carolina Panthers, who are without Christian McCaffrey because of that trade, and are starting P.J. Walker at quarterback. And the Bucs looked anemic against them. Aaron Rodgers falls to the Jets at home. Hello, Nicholas.
And look what the cat dragged in.
Oh, I cannot hear you.
No, I got him.
Oh, there we go.
I just had him. He was zooming for when he...
So, Nick, the little tidbit of info I have is Sam Ellinger's quarterback coach is the same as Patrick Mahomes.
Okay.
So we'll see. We'll see if that develops at all. But we're on to struggle.
I'd feel a little bit more comfortable if his quarterback coach was either yourself or Jordan Palmer, because Jordan Palmer has had his hands on every relevant quarterback over the last 5 draft classes. But who am I to talk?
But Patrick Mahomes is probably the best quarterback in the league today, arguably, with Josh Allen. So we'll see.
Sure. You'd put Baker up there, but that's okay.
I would not put Baker up there. I just think Baker's in the top 30, which if there's 32 teams, he should be starting. Struggles for Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers. Tom Brady takes a bad loss to P.J. Walker. Aaron Rodgers takes a bad loss to Sauce Gardner and the Jets at home at Lambeau. Moving forward, which one has the higher chance of rebounding and bringing their team to the playoffs? Number 12?
Tom of Tampa.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you.
Aaron Rodgers.
I think the team is better in Tampa.
I would agree. I also think that Aaron Rodgers, it's like a leap year. Once every 4 years, Aaron Rodgers turns into the stale pumpkin on your front porch.
Yep.
After first
and blames everybody else. He
creates a massive issue in the locker room. He becomes detached from the team. He starts blaming coaches. I'm telling like clockwork. Once every 4 years. Ever since McCarthy, or every couple of years, ever since McCarthy left, this has been the theme. When they're not good, it's not his fault; it's everyone else.
Right.
I've said this for years about the Green Bay Packers. The issue in that franchise is they do not have a owner that holds Aaron accountable, because he is the richest man in the room, and nobody else is going to tell him shit in Green Bay, and that's why he didn't leave, because that just feeds his ego. He is a locker room cancer. And if I'm the Green Bay Packers, I'd be looking at any way to get out of that contract after this season is over, where it doesn't absolutely sink my team.
All righty. Well, let's switch gears to our last headline news topic of the day. That's going to be the Jets trading for James Robinson, the running back from Jacksonville.
Robert Quinn, right?
That is not on the run sheet, but we can definitely talk about it. Let's talk about a couple trades here then. So the Jets trade for James Robinson with Breece Hall and the ACL injury sidelining him for the rest of the season. James Robinson is going to basically come in and be their lead back, in my opinion. They also have Michael Carter in their backfield, who's a serviceable backup. James Robinson makes them a playoff contender, in my opinion, right off the bat, because I think he was making Jacksonville a playoff contender off the bat. They're sitting at 5-2. They're looking pretty decent in that division. I think that they could finish second behind Buffalo and sneak into the playoffs, which is extremely shocking through 7 games.
It's weird. Me and you talked about this, that it was all going to depend on that draft class and how quickly they matured when we were doing our draft recap, right? And take a look around. The pass rusher has rounded out. Sauce Gardner's taken on, man challenges on top receivers every week. Zach Wilson, now that he has returned, has been a more than serviceable starter. A little bit of the turnover bug, but I think that's just the way he plays ball. They've got a good offensive line. The head coaching seems to have come around on the team. They're just right place, right time all the time. They're doing all the little things right. I'm super impressed by how mature that team looks with the youth that it has. Odd trade though for Jacksonville, if you ask me.
No, Travis Etienne is the running back for the future. They didn't really need James Robinson, is the way that they looked at it. And they got some value back for him. So I think that was a fair trade.
Not nearly enough if you're looking to be able to replace his production on the offensive side of the football.
You can replace it with Etienne, though. You can replace it right with Etienne, who's on your roster already. So anything that you get back for it is a bonus right on top. I look at that as a pretty fair trade. This is the type of trades that we see in the NFL, in my opinion. A team that needed a running back, a team that has 3. Well, let's put them together and trade them. I think both teams are going to get better for it in the long run. I think the Jets are a playoff team because of it this year, which will be really interesting to see. Then the last trade we want to touch on is the Philadelphia Eagles trade for Robert Quinn. What was it, a 4th rounder I think they sent to the Bears? Yep. First of all, thank God we did not get Ryan Poles as our GM because that team is gone. Second of all, I don't think that this is as impactful as everybody else thinks. Robert Quinn threw 7 games, has 1 sack and 2 quarterback hurries. Yeah, he might have been getting double teamed in Chicago, but I think that Robert Quinn is a skeleton of who he used to be. I don't see him coming in and being a huge impact. The impact that I do see him making is in the running game because of his length and ability to basically stop that edge. So I do think the Eagles get better, but really they get better because of the depth that they have. They lost Derek Barnett due to injury. So they didn't have the rotation that they basically wanted going into this season with the depth and the amount of D linemen that they felt could play on the NFL level. This helps them with that, but I don't see I see that Philadelphia got an A grade for this. I mean, I would just give it a B grade because you're not getting Robert Quinn when he was 26. I'm sorry, you're just not. He's still 32, 33 years old. He doesn't have the jump off the ball that he used to. He doesn't have the pass rushing ability that he used to. No, that's not to say that he's not serviceable and can still hurry the passer, but this is a 33-year-old defensive end edge pass rusher that you're bringing in, right? So it's going to be impactful, but not as impactful as the sports pundits around the nation think.
Yeah, the only thing that I would say is when Howie Roseman calls, just know you're probably getting fucked. So don't answer the phone because if anybody's going to be able to make this work, it would be the Philadelphia Eagles and then make the Bears just look absolutely foolish for making this trade. Like, I don't know, GMs around the league just take notice when his caller ID comes up, maybe just let that one go to voicemail.
All righty. And then our last segment of the day is going to be NFL key games preview. Nick only wanted one game that he wanted to talk about, and Nick wanted to talk about 2 losing teams, guys. We got the 49ers and Rams that Nick wanted to talk about today. Both teams are sitting okay, who cares about the NFC West, though? It was supposed to be the best division in football. Right now, it's the NFC East is the most talented team in football, or most talented division in football. NFC West is more looking like they basically switched roles. In my opinion. I mean, when you look at the standings for the NFC West, I think the leader of that division is Seattle. The Seattle Seahawks at 4-3.
For everybody doubted my Kenneth Walker III being the second coming of beast mode in Seattle, go ahead and buckle up. It's going to be a long one because I'm going to never let y'all live that down.
All right, so 49ers Rams 3-4 versus 3-3. Who wins that ball game?
You got to think it's the 49ers, right? Getting healthier. Something is wrong with the Rams. I say this every week we come on this show. That offense without Kevin O'Connell and Wes Phillips doesn't work the same. There's something missing. There's a magic sauce that looks like it has been removed.
The sauce is in New York.
No, it's in Minnesota.
All right.
You know what it is? It's on the sidelines and up in the coach's booth, and it's steering the ship of a 5-1 team.
It's the reason
a threat
females
in the
around
NFC.
Minnesota have been paying attention to the Vikings this year.
Kevin O'Connor. That's all I got to say.
All righty. So
I had to get my KOC love in there. I know Gabe was giving me shit for last week. Had to get it in this week too.
I'm going to go Niners as well because I just see them as being a sustainable formula for success in the NFL, right? Really good running game, a quarterback that doesn't really turn the ball over. You now have the dynamic ability of a receiver that can play running back, but also a running back that can play receiver. It's mismatch hell for teams. You also have George Kittle, who hasn't really played super well this season statistically, but he's a matchup nightmare. So you have Deebo Samuel, who any NFL team would love to have as a matchup nightmare. You have Christian McCaffrey. Any NFL team would love to have him as a matchup nightmare. You have George Kittle, matchup nightmare. Kyle Juszczyk, the fullback. Juszczyk, matchup nightmare. Yeah. So, I mean.
And, hey, for the Niners, too, keep in mind, interesting stat for all the Jimmy G haters out there after Trey Lance went down. Jimmy G has improved both his passer rating and his yards per game each of the 3 weeks that he has started so far. So if he continues to progress and get more comfortable in an offense that may have changed a little bit, Niners are going to be a real threat like they have been in years past.
Yep. The last 5 years, the Niners have been basically a threat.
Yep.
And then the one game that I actually really do want to talk about, it's the game of the week, in my opinion, because it's the only NFL game this week with 2 winning football teams. Nice sneeze. Good. God bless you. 2 winning football teams. It's the only game all week with 2 winning records going up against each other. The 6-1 New York Giants at the 4-3 Seattle Seahawks. It's the only game in the entire NFL with 2 winning records, Nicholas. You gotta acknowledge it. You have to.
New York wins.
Really?
Seattle keeps it close. New York wins. Yeah.
So the Giants are going to extend to 7-1 then.
Yep, and you know what starts next week for us? The campaign to put Saquon Barkley on the MVP train, because you can't talk about a running back that has a bigger impact on a team right now than Saquon Barkley has on his own individual team. Derrick Henry doesn't have that impact. Dalvin Cook does not have that impact. Alvin Kamara, Christian McCaffrey. No other running back in the league is single-handedly lifting an offense into playoff contention from what was supposed to be irrelevancy. This reminiscent of when the Vikings were surprised when Adrian Peterson came off that ACL injury of his own. MVP talk starts next week for Saquon Barkley when they pick up a win.
I'm going to go Seahawks because I believe in Geno.
Fair enough.
I'm going to say this game gets a little wonky because I don't trust Daniel Jones or Geno Smith. So I think turnovers, possibly a safety mixed in there. I'm going to say
5 running touchdowns guaranteed in this game.
I'm going to say 24-19 Seahawks over the Giants. And the Giants, let's even throw this in there. I'm going to say 24-19 Seahawks. Giants have the ball with a chance to win late, but Daniel Jones shows that he is still Daniel Jones. Turnover or an incomplete pass on 4th down.
Possibilities. I don't quite see it that way. I think Saquon Barkley goes ahead and runs this thing away. I think we wind up with like a 21-13 victory for New York, and it's going to look like 27 carries for 132 on the ground and 2 touchdowns for Saquon.
I agree with the stat line. That's 14 of their 19 points.
Yep. So,
all righty, guys. Well, let us know what you think about the NFL key games that we have around the league this week. 49ers at Rams, Giants versus Seahawks. Also, let us know what you think about the Vikings matchup against the Cardinals and our NFL headline news. How does McCaffrey do in San Francisco? How does Sam Ehlinger step in? Does he propel Indianapolis to a winning record this year? Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers? Who has the higher chance of turning it around to finish in the playoffs with their basically both have decent rosters around them? Packers are a little bit worse. Bucks are a little bit better. And then how does James Robinson do in New York with the new green jersey that he's going to be wearing? Do the Jets finish in the playoffs with him leading that backfield?
Yeah. All good things we want to hear about, obviously, if Mike doesn't at the end of the show, right? So you're not going to get back to you here. We'll get back to you in the comment section afterwards. And Mike's going to be in charge this week, so you get some fiery answers in response.
I will curse you out.
So
I will curse you out if you have a bad take.
Gents, I'm sorry to cut in, but there's a little unfinished business we have from earlier in the show. What? You gotta go that bad?
No, I'm just playing. I'm giving Gabe a hard time.
Because this is important. Okay? This is a somber news, but Harper versus Trout.
Oh, geez.
I can't just let that go like that.
Oh,
how that
geez.
happened. So I got some stats.
I mean, it's going to be.
Can we blow that up,
that
Gabe?
article.
Can we blow that up?
I thought that was blown up really good. That's what I was doing back here. But
It may be blown up for the viewers, but I also have half the screen on Nicholas's face right
Here,
now.
watch this. I can't hide Nick. So I'm sorry, but I'll read them to you.
Okay.
Okay? So, yes, we need a little bit of context, obviously, with the seasons. We know 2011, 2013. So there's a little bit of difference there. I don't have super granular stuff. But by the numbers, games played. So this is very accurate in games played. 1382 for Harper, 1407 for Trout. So this is a solid comparison.
So Bryce Harper has 25 less games
yes.
in 2 years.
Right.
So think about that. Basically, 2 years of Mike Trout only playing 10 games a year.
Correct. So, I mean, bad injuries, right. That stuff happened. But what we're talking about is kind of who's a better player, right? I mean, that's part of this. I know I asked who you'd rather draft, but this is a kind of player thing. So the plate appearances, 61 for Trout, 59 for Harper. Let's see, runs scored, 1052 Trout, 913 Harper.
I don't think Harper could get 125 games.
Hits, Trout, 1,543. Harper, 1379.
Again, don't think he can get 100 hits in 25 games.
Right. Doubles, basically the same, 296, 298. Triples, 51 for for Trout, 23 for Harper.
Yeah, because Trout's got speed.
Home runs, 350 for Trout, 285 for Harper.
Don't think he can get 70 homers in 25 games, Nicholas.
RBI.
Just keep going.
896 for Trout, 817 to Harper.
Again, don't think he can get 70 ribbies in 25 games.
Stolen bases, 204 for Trout, 122 for Harper. Although Harper has been caught stealing more times than he has, 43 to 37. Yeah. So
how do you look at this and say Bryce Harper? I'm sorry.
And we got the better ones coming here, I believe. So we got, let's see, walks are pretty close, 919 to 879, but in Trout's favor. Trout has struck out more.
Yeah.
Almost 80 more times.
Sure.
Batting average 308 for Trout, 280 to Harper. That's 30 points.
Big difference.
On
one's over 300 for their career.
Gabe.
What?
Gabe, can I cut you off here, man? Because
sure.
You're for your baseball analysis, which has forever been such of the elder class ilk that believes in maybe the Jimmies and the Joes over the X's and the O's. Are you really going to sit here and read a stat sheet to me right now about who the better baseball player is?
It's because the stat sheet is encouraging you to be wrong. That's why you're like, oh, no, throw the stats out.
But this isn't the totality of my argument. This is just a good indicator. But, okay, go ahead.
Oh, absolutely. If you're a baseball analytics person, you're like, yeah, give me Trout. You know who you're also all about then? Byron Buxton, Mike, who you didn't want
No, you're not. He batted .215. How are you about him if you're looking at the analytics at all?
Because no matter how good his numbers are.
No, his numbers are bad. That's what I'm saying.
I know, but no matter what his numbers are, no matter how many home runs he hits, gold gloves he wins, bases he steals, he's not going to be there when it matters, and that's what matters. Bryce Harper is the better player.
You're dumb, dude. I'm sorry.
On the teams he's played on.
The teams he's played on have been better. The Nationals could have won the World Series without him, possibly.
So
I'm just saying.
If you're a GM, then
Trout and Ohtani will hit 3 home runs combined and lose 4-3, but that's his fault.
If you are a GM, you would choose Harper. Looking at these stats,
and I'll choose Trout, and I'll beat Nick's team.
Yeah, but that one time we get to the World Series, he's going to be a lot better.
2, actually, and an MVP trophy in there, mind you, and multiple deep playoff runs to where he has been.
Yeah, because his teams around him are better.
Do you think Trout on those teams, if he were on those teams that Harper were on, he would have drugged the team down and they wouldn't have been as successful?
I don't think he would have drugged them down. He probably lifts them up in the regular season, and like every other injury-prone all-star gets to the postseason, is missing, and then they're bounced in the first round.
Boy, you're putting me in a weird position here because I'm not even a Trout lover at all. I was the one who's trying to say that Mantle is way better. But what I'm saying is, and I like Harper. I really am rooting. I've hated him always, and now I'm rooting for him because it's like you can't help it. But at the same time, how do you say, like, I mean, I was kind of taken aback by these, and then we haven't even said the big thing is the fucking defense.
Yep.
Trout's defense is way better. Like,
Yep.
how would you? I can't even imagine choosing this just based on that.
Because Nicholas suffers from something that we call recency bias. Because
I've been a Bryce Harper fan since he was a catcher in Nevada, hitting home runs with an aluminum bat out of Tropicana Stadium.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
With me, Michael.
But if Mike Trout is in the World Series this year, you are saying that he's better. I know you. I know you very well.
And just like you say that he's better, or Trout's better than Mantle or whatever, because he's more recent.
Right.
This is your thing.
It's
you're
okay.
Just connected to the present.
Nicholas suffers from recency bias.
That's a nice
it's
place
fine.
you're in, by the
it's
way.
fine.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of nice out here.
Yeah.
All right. With that, let us.
Tropicana is like right here.
It's a nice place to be wrong.
I thought you landed in Minnesota today.
I knew you were wrong on that shit.
Oh, well, sorry. All right.
Listen,
Let us know what you guys think about the Harper versus Trout argument. There is a right and a wrong. We are representing the right and the wrong side of this argument, so let us know which one you agree with. With that, we're going to lead out, guys. Thank you for listening today. If you are a sports fan with sports fan friends, make sure you like and share so you can continue to see our content and encourage us to do more content like this. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Spotify, YouTube, Patreon, and Twitch. Nicholas is going to start playing Cities Skyline on Twitch, is the rumor. So we'll see how that works. And then you can catch us on local cable here in the in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area on MCN 6 Saturdays at 10 o'clock. We might actually be out of that late night segment because I don't think there was a curse word because Nick wasn't in studio today. And then if you are out
way earlier,
if you are outside of the Twin Cities, you can catch us on MCN 6 through the Roku app. With that, thank you guys for joining us. Nick, you want to say your closing catchphrase quick?
No, man, you killed it. I'm just gonna kick my feet up. It's your show this week, man. It's Mike's world. Everybody else just living it.
That is true.
All right. Well, I believe it goes something along the lines of, thanks for joining us. Stay safe and have fun.
Yeah, boy.
Nailed it.
Well, thanks for making this a fun shot of an awful day, guys. So thanks. I'll see you guys soon.
All good. Take care, Mikey.
See you, buddy. Have fun in Florida.
Will do.
And actually, yeah, we can stay on for a minute after if you need to debrief. If needed.
No, I think we're good.
Okay.